Hello, PaleoFX tribe. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I am joined by Hilary Bromberg, and I'm happy to be talking to you again. Hilary has been a longtime speaker of ours, and will be at our Health Entrepreneur FX, and is going to be speaking there. Lots of experience in the startup world and in creating all different types of businesses. To kind of tell us how you got started in that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, my journey has been kind of an interesting, non-traditional one. I actually started off in academia. So I was in cognitive neuroscience. I was like, okay, I want to understand what makes us exactly the way we are. I want to understand language and consciousness, all of these mysteries. From there, I actually started getting into evolutionary psychology. I was learning about it when I was in graduate school. And then as I learned more and more, I became kind of disillusioned with that and decided, okay, academia is too abstract. And, people just spend time fighting over the minutia of all these different theories. I was like, okay, I want to be in a different environment. So I left academia and went to New York and quickly found that all the cognitive neuroscience stuff that I was doing was really applicable to branding and marketing. Because you're basically trying to just manipulate people into doing what you want them to do. And the more you can understand what makes people tick, from a deep neuronal level to a perceptual level to an anthropological level, at every stage, you can really understand how to manipulate people. So I was doing that for a while, but I was getting really disillusioned, basically because I was manipulating people into buying things that I did not want them to actually buy. I was getting pretty hardcore into vegetarianism, veganism, raw veganism at the time. And I kind of had this pivotal moment when I was sitting at a client site and I was like in front of this table and there were packages of Doritos and X-Lax on the table. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore, and at the time, I was such a hardcore raw vegan that I was literally like buying illegal young coconuts by the case in Chinatown, taking them back to my loft, cutting them with machetes on the floor. Like I was so ready to get out of the city. I was like, basically starting to learn about deep ecology and sustainability. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. I've had enough. So I stopped doing that, left the city, moved to the desert, wrote a novel off the grid, reconnected with nature, got really, really just sort of deep into a lot of stuff that is really, that I'd been deprived of living in urban environments so long and being in a rarefied academic environment. There were like 5 miles of dirt roads. And, if it was raining, if it was snowing, you couldn't leave, so I started to ferment things, and learn how to sprout and grow things, so it was a lot of really seismic shifts. And, I wasn't sure that I was going to even be going back to civilization at all. But then I actually shifted into the Pacific Northwest, where there was an interesting startup company called Egg, which was a sustainability-oriented branding company. And I figured, okay, I'm interested in actually trying to make a positive impact. And everything that I do is really about sustainability. So if I can actually help clients to further things, help clients who are actually trying to make a positive impact in the world, that'll be a good thing. So, we've been doing this now for about 12 years, 13 years. And, I work with a lot of different clients, sort of shifted into food product development a lot just because that's something I really love. And I'm really, passionate about shifting our food system. And then a couple of years ago, another company came out of just my obsession with food and my passion for ancestral living, which is Barefoot Provisions. And that company was really a response to the fact that, okay, so when I went raw vegan, it was really hard for me. I was eating a standard American foodie diet, which wasn't really, and it was like, I had no idea what to do when I first became raw vegan. And at the time, no one really knew about it. And so I had to go to this little tiny store in the East Village called High Vibe, where some guy named Dagger would tell you about all his wares and his strange little dusty containers. And
hold on, wait, like I'm picturing this high vibe. Did I get that correctly?
Yes.
High vibe and a dude named Dagger. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Sounds like a song. Actually, go ahead.
It was awesome. No, I mean, that was where, probably like 20 years ago, I saw David Wolf talk before anybody knew who he was. He had an audience of like 6 people in this basement, and he's, going on and on about all the esoteric stuff he's into. It was a really interesting scene back then, and really got me thinking about a lot of issues around, okay, where is my food sourced? I'd never thought about that before, right? I mean, sort of, organic in the abstract. It's like, okay, what's actually in this? Who's being affected by this? And so that was really a refuge for me. But I was lucky to be in New York. I was lucky to have access to that. And so I started Barefoot Provisions thinking, okay, there really wasn't anywhere online that sold the food that I would want. If I were starting to go paleo or go ancestral, the idea is, okay, I don't know what to do. I'm probably eating standard American diet. I probably don't have time to cook all the time. I'd love to. I aspire to it. Realistically, I'm probably a busy person without a lot of time. So the idea behind that was to say, okay, here's all the stuff through a foodie filter that's also really, paleo aligned. Yeah, so that's been a lot of my journey through these past years.
Wow. I thank you for telling me that story, because I didn't even actually know the whole story. I kind of knew a part of it, definitely knew that you had been vegan and vegetarian and all of that, but didn't know that whole story. So that's pretty cool. Now you have recently started hunting.
Yeah. It's been an incredible journey there. So I was a oh, sorry, go ahead.
So talk about knowing where your food comes from.
Oh, I know. Well, it was the natural extension of my interest in food, and also sustainability and regenerativity. I was the most militant vegan you could imagine many years ago, because I didn't know any better. At that point, I wasn't thinking in a systems way. I hadn't read the vegetarian myth yet. I didn't know that there was, there's really no such thing as a vegan. It's not good for us. It's not good for the planet. It's not really good on any level. But at the time, I thought it was. I thought it was, the best way to be. And then gradually I started, I got the Nourishing Traditions cookbook, and I was like, wow, okay, maybe I can start incorporating things. I went to a nutritionist who come from Bastyr University. He's like, you should have egg yolks, but it's okay. There are egg yolks that are from happy eggs, and so gradually, from happy chickens that are eating good things and wandering around. Don't feel so bad about that. And so I gradually
happy eggs.
Yeah, happy eggs, happy chicken. All the happiness everywhere. Right, we're non-dual. So yeah, I basically just started gradually incorporating more and more animal products, but they had to be sourced consciously. They had to be, ideally I wanted to know the farmer. So I started, I was going to farmers markets, doing CSAs. I would share a pig with somebody and say, okay, let's, get a share of this pig or of this cow. And then I started doing butchery, which that was something to overcome also, because, from not having prepared meat really for most of my life, there was a squeamishness. Mm-hmm. I had to get over just this visceral quality of whoa, this is like a dead animal, and there was something just very, very, very basic. And so doing butchery really helped reconnect me, getting used to looking at the head of a pig that's not alive. And, it's a very powerful thing, and it hasn't stopped being powerful. I was just able to overcome that. And hunting was something that I wanted to do for a while, but it was just, it was one of those things that, okay, I'll do it sometime, but you probably need licenses. It just sort of seemed like something that other people did. And there's really not a lot of infrastructure around hunting, especially for people who are more conscious. Hunting has this horrible redneck reputation now, as you know. I mean, it's and gradually as I became, as I took the certification, I was like, whoa, hunters are actually the most powerful conservationists. Mm-hmm. Hunters are responsible for preserving wild lands and trying to expand the reach of wild lands. And it's not about decimating a population at all, but rather maintaining healthy wild animal populations. And so, regenerative agriculture, says, we have to have animals grazing everywhere. We have to have as many wild animals of different kinds on the land in order to restore the soil. So, yeah, it was something that I'd wanted to do for a while. And actually, Shannon Drake of The Dirt and Jumbo, we've been friends for a while, just, through this industry. And she was like, oh my God, there's women's hunting workshops that are going on through this organization in Northern California. And, it doesn't have any of the classic, okay, we're going to be aggressive and masculine, to that. And every male hunter I've met so far has been awesome and doesn't embody toxic masculinity at all. But it was a cool thing to say, okay, just going to be women. We're going to learn how to hunt. We're going to do this. So yeah, I started that about a year ago, and it's just been incredible. It was so powerful I didn't know how I would react. Like, am I going to cry? Because I'm a really sensitive person. And like, I thought, am I going to even be able to do this? But the interesting thing was, talk about ancestral. When I got out there with a shotgun, I practiced, I'd learned to shoot and everything. When I got out there with a shotgun and there was a bird up there, it was like something just came over me. This primal, ancestral, instinctual, just moment of pure focus, pure flow. It was like this exhilarating flow state. And I didn't expect that. I didn't know that it would be that intense and focused and blissful, actually. And so I shot, and it was a pheasant, and then, went over there with the dog and got the pheasant. And, it was just, I felt, I've read a lot of sort of, Native American literature and talked with a bunch of people who are, who really, there's a sacredness associated with every single creature. And it's not killing for sport or killing because we like to kill. It's killing because that's part of the natural cycle of life. Mm-hmm. And so what came over me at that moment, just instinctively, was just to hold this bird and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it was, I wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't intellectual at all. It was just very intuitive. And so, yeah.
I love that point of reverence, because it's having that gratitude and reverence for the fact that the animal died for you and for sustenance, nutrition, that type of thing. And that's one of the things that I really love about our movement, particularly, is that so many people just think that we are wanton carnivores. Mm-hmm. And we want every sentient being to live its life to its fullest potential, and part of that potential is ending up on somebody's plate. And the thing is that I feel like a lot of people don't understand that that's not, we aren't down for CAFOs. We don't want confined animal feeding lots. We don't want them confined inside cages and we don't want any of that. We want them to live the life they were intended to live. And that's part of, like you said, it's part of the circle of life. It's part of, it's just the way things are. And, we end up ultimately dying and going back to the earth too, to feed the animals. So it's not like we're just these, crazy humans. So I really love the fact that you had that moment to be able to, just kind of give some gratitude back to that's awesome. I can only imagine what an incredible experience that was. Looking forward to eventually getting to do that myself. So anyway, very cool. So, so your paleo ancestral, how has this changed your companies?
Wow. Well, I was from an ancestral evolutionary psychology perspective for a long time. And as I said, it's been this journey. So I came in to egg with, a very strong sustainability ethos. But what I noticed was that, as my understanding of nutrition evolved, there started to be clients that I was just not going to want to work with. Like years ago, for example, I worked with a very large organic cereal company. And as we know, cereal is all grains, unless you're making, paleo granola, and millions of people are, but that wasn't what this was. This was just, it was organic grain, but it was still grain. And there was soy in it and things that I just don't believe are good for a person, especially, maybe if it's heirloom and sprouted and you're not eating a ton of it, fine, whatever. But, this was just, and also lots of sugar. And so as I've become more sophisticated in my understanding of nutrition, there are just a lot of clients that I would not work with because I don't believe that what they're doing is really aligned with, the future of human health. And that's been something really interesting to grapple with. I find myself turning down more and more and more clients. There's just not a lot of people I'd work with. I love working with, White Oak Pastures, Will Harris. They're leaders in regenerative agriculture. So it's extremely satisfying and powerful to be able to say, okay, this is absolutely 100%, helping the world to become better. These people are visionaries and leaders, but there's not a lot of White Oak Pastures out there.
This is true. If only there were more. So what do you see some of the big changes that are, being made by companies as we move forward, and particularly within the paleo space? And how do you feel like we're actually changing companies outside of it that are more mainstream companies? What do you see there?
Yeah, well, on a macro level, there's a really massive shift that's happening. And I'll be talking about this a lot more at Health FX. But basically, the paradigm shift that's happening now is bigger than anything that has happened since the advent of agriculture 10,000 years ago. So what we're seeing now is a massive change, a shift. You could call it a shift from the age of empire to the planetary age. People, a lot of people have different terms for it, but basically companies have to rethink the way that they're doing everything. Now, some companies are still very much in the empire age in the way that they're running their companies. And this comes down to social environmental responsibility. How do you, how do you treat people who work for you? What are your impacts all along the supply chain? How transparent are you with your customers? So there are a lot of different things that companies need to do if they're going to survive into this new world, into this new age. Because in the planetary age, everything has to be sustainable and ideally regenerative. Obviously there are a lot of issues right now with climate change and environmental degradation, species loss, all of this. And, the world that, we're living in this time of ridiculous amounts of change. Absurd amounts of change. I know people have said that throughout all of history, but if you look at a lot of the indicators now, it's total chaos. And so what's going to happen is that the people who have a planetary age ethos and practice are going to survive. And that's what we're seeing now, because the people who come into this space, the people who are in the natural organic food industry, who make paleo products, are more woke than a lot of people. Typically, not all of them, and they shake out fairly quickly, but they're bringing, a different ethos, a more evolved ethos to the game. And so I think what we're going to see, as the years progress, as we get more and more, bizarre weather patterns and hurricanes and floods and fires and crises on everyone's mind, who knows? There's a lot of stuff happening. People are going to become more and more aware of the changes that they have to make. People are also becoming more distributed. The world is flat, so people are working remotely a lot. We're seeing, the traditional office is going away. People who are working in offices, often these sorts of companies will do a lot of things that are more progressive. There's not this hierarchy. A huge hallmark of this shift is one from a dominance mentality, hierarchical mentality, to a more egalitarian, holistic mindset. So I'll go into more detail about this in my talk, but the shift is pretty dramatic and pretty exciting, actually, because it's time for all these old institutions to die.
Agreed. And we're, that's one of the things, as far as we're concerned, we actually, I don't know if you're familiar with Voice and Exit, but it's a it's a conference here that's really about human flourishing and how are we going to actually evolve into the future, and what are we going to take with us, and what are we going to not take with us, and how are we going to change things. And their tagline is "Criticized by Creating," which they took from Michelangelo. And we talked to them. We're going to do some stuff with them, partnering with them this year. And we have borrowed that tagline for this year as the theme for Paleo FX. Because one of the things that we started talking about is that, Sam Rayburn was a congressman from the state of Texas. And he said, any jackass can kick down a barn door or kick down a barn, but it takes a carpenter to build one. And, sometimes that's lost on people and they're not understanding what that means. Well, it means revolutions really fail when you fail to have something in place when you take down the old. And so that's what we're about, particularly Health Entrepreneur FX, is we want to help support these entrepreneurs, because it's entrepreneurs that are going to save us as we move forward. It's entrepreneurs that are going to build what we need in the future, and that are going to create, they're going to criticize by creating new stuff instead of us just getting rid of the old and then we have nothing and then we end up worse off than we started. And so that's where, that's one of the reasons why Health Entrepreneur FX even exists, is so that we can help support these people that are coming into the space and helping them be successful and just really understanding. So I appreciate so much your particular perspective and coming in, because I feel like when you understand that, you're able to not only help, but, be able to help guide along new companies that are going to need it, and them starting to click and get those kind of things. So, you are a very busy woman. So tell me, what are all the hats that you are currently wearing?
Oh, wow. Well, actually, right now, so I'm in New Mexico now, and the hat I'm wearing most is I'm pushing on this book that I've been working on for years now. I've got all the other hats on, but this is the one that I'm really trying to wear. I'm trying to, keep my phone in airplane mode and keep distractions away and really try to focus, because I need to really have undistracted time, which is not always easy. But this book that I'm working on it's all about exactly what you've pointed out, which is that, okay, we can complain forever about modern civilization. Those of us who get it, we can go on a litany, and it's very satisfying. It's very cathartic and powerful, and we need to complain, because, most people still don't get it. 75% of the US population, they're still in this consensus trance. They still think that everything about modernity is awesome. Yeah. And so, you can complain. We need to do that. But then what's next? Mm-hmm. So, the model that I'm working with, we talk a lot about the standard American diet and how awful it is. And we need to go beyond that. And it's all about not eating junk food anymore. And so this book is all about the standard American life. And what the standard American life is, going into a lot of deep stuff in terms of mindset and patterns and a lot of things that people don't necessarily connect the dots with, especially to paleo and ancestral health, and saying, okay, it's not just about we need to stop eating junk food. Let's get rid of the junk ideas. Amen. Let's get rid of the junk behaviors. Mm-hmm. There are all these things that feel good in the moment, but they don't help us. They don't help anybody. Yeah.
Agree. I completely agree with you. So very, very cool. I'm really excited that you're going to be coming to Health Entrepreneur FX. And I know you're really super busy, and appreciate you so much for taking the time to come on and talk about what you have going on and what you're going to be talking about at Health Entrepreneur FX. And we have the tickets are currently on sale. The links in the post. So make sure that you go on and get your tickets, and they are currently discounted. They won't be for very much longer. And we believe honestly that this is going to be a sold out show. Well, every time we've sold out, but this is, we've got a really special crew coming in this time. We have Dr. Mercola, JJ Virgin, Hilary, Mike Bledsoe, I don't want to leave anybody out. Alex Sharfin, David Gonzalez, and Christina Wise, and Jill Coleman. And we're real excited about the lineup that we have. And Dr. Sarah Ballantyne. See, I knew I was going to forget somebody. But we have such amazing people that are going to be coming that have built incredible businesses that can help those of you that are wanting to either start in this sphere, or you already have something going and you just need to figure out how to get to the next level. Or you need to learn how to scale up. That's what this event is for, and we want to be there to support you guys. And so want to make sure you guys get your tickets, get them soon, because I know that we will be sold out fairly soon. Thank you so much again, Hilary, for supporting Paleo FX and Health Entrepreneur FX. So appreciate everything that you do, particularly at Barefoot Provisions and at the Egg. And I'm looking forward to your book. And you guys have a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you again here soon. Thank you again, Hilary.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. See you later.